But Brandon, let's move on into the last team, the final preview team that we are looking at for the 2017, coming into the 2017 season, and it is the Oklahoma Sooners. Boomer Sooner on the podcast. And really, this one, we're not going to start off with quarterback. And I know everyone's going, like, this is where I go over to the laugh track, and it's like, aw, the studio audience. But we're now talking about Baker Mayfield first. We will get to him. The thing we got to hit with this team coming in, though, is that they're going to be, like, this is something that we couldn't talk about when it happened because we were doing our previews. But this is going to be the first in, I can't even remember in my career doing this, that Oklahoma will be without Stoops on the sideline as he stepped down this offseason and will not be the Oklahoma Sooners head coach.
And now, Ricky, again, does that just seem odd to you?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't seem odd at all.
It doesn't.
And the reason why it doesn't seem odd at all is because I know I've been on this train a little bit more than you have, but over the past season, maybe a few months, I've been on the, is it time to maybe fire, is it time to fire Stoops or look into getting rid of Stoops? Not necessarily about his record or anything, but based off of just some situational things, more so the Joe Mixon thing and how the culture might have set up at Oklahoma. So when he stepped down, I really looked at it as like, maybe there was a little something to look at there after all. Maybe just a little something. But this is a coach, like I was thinking about this coming into recording today. This is the one coaching change that where it's like most coaching changes we've looked at, it's been like, well, I don't know. This is going to be a change for this team. I think this could be a good thing for Oklahoma. This could turn out to be a blessing for their team because not only do they get a guy where the offense ain't going to change, they have a guy who knows how to deal with these players already. It's not like they're getting someone from the outside that needs to rebuild everything. Yeah, there's going to be a little bit of tweaking to the culture because Lincoln Riley is going to set up a different culture in the locker room than Stoops had. That's just head coach to head coach. But this is a team that, coming off of a coaching change, I don't think misses a stride or has the chance to not miss a stride coming into this year, mainly because of his rapport with the team. He knows the team. He knows this quarterback, which is going to be the relationship between Riley and Mayfield are going to fuel Oklahoma. So this is actually a coaching change that I look at and I go, could be a blessing for Oklahoma. Could not be a bad thing like we look at for most coaching changes year in and year out.
Well, I thought that it was a surprise with Bob Stoops stepping down. I was kind of shocked because a guy like Bob Stoops, who's had the type of success that he's had, I just felt like it was a big surprise to me. And you take away all the kind of the shadiness that you could call it. His records were good. He had a great quarterback. He had a very good offense. He had a good team. And I guess I'm just surprised why right now. Maybe I could see if after Baker Mayfield was done, maybe at the end of this season, he goes through, he's got Mayfield, he makes one last push for the college football playoff, and then if it doesn't happen, or if it does happen, you have a lot of success, you win it all, let's say, then you go out on top, or you go out with, one of the best quarterbacks you've seen the program have. He didn't do that, so that's a little surprising to me that he did it with kind of not really around anything. So that's why I was surprised. But you're right, the offense is not changing, but the pieces on the offense certainly are.
Well, and I want to touch one thing before you go into the offense is the exact reasons why it wasn't surprising to me is, yes, the record was great for Bob Stoops, but it wasn't just Joe Mixon. Yeah, the Joe Mixon thing was huge, but during his time, he recruited, transferred Doyle Green Beckham. He was one that was released from Mizzou during his time for pushing a woman down the stairs. And then also there was in 2015, Frank Shannon, a linebacker, welcomed back to the team after being found to have committed sexual misconduct in January of 2014. So you had those two, Joe Mixon. It was just a lot of mishandled situations. That's why I wasn't surprised. But get into the offense. Get into the X's and O's.
One more quick thing.
Okay.
One more quick thing.
I always do it.
Is that guys like that with an ego, as I'm sure he had, they don't leave because they're too good. They can't leave because if no one's going to get rid of them,
I think
they will sit on their throne of egotistical.
You know what I think it might have been? It might have been a situation where it's like, hey, Bob, we don't want to fire you. You know you don't want us to fire you. You've been a great coach. You want to keep your pride intact. We're gonna basically ask you to step down. And that's what I think might have happened behind closed doors, because the Oklahoma AD and the basically the board probably had to look at it and go, you know what? These situations aren't good, Joe Mixon. This is another one on top of it. We've got a guy like Riley here. Why wait for him to move on when we got this guy before he leaves and finds another job somewhere else?
Agreed. But moving to the offense, you lose Samaje Perine.
Huge.
You lose Joe Mixon.
Huge.
And you lose D.D. Westbrook.
Huge.
Those are all really, really big pieces. Then you look at Rodney Anderson, who's really struggling to stay healthy.
Do you want to know a fun
and has
fact?
really struggled to stay healthy. And then you've got Mark Andrews, who's the big tight end / big receiver. And then after that, you've got question marks, you've got transfers, you've got guys who've been there but haven't really been used. There's a lot of questions, but Ricky, go ahead.
I got your fun fact. Mixon, Perine, and Westbrook combined last year for 2,435 rushing yards, 2,168 receiving yards between the three of them. That's what they're losing just in those three players alone.
I mean, that's just incredible. That's incredible with what they're losing. But we all knew that. They all knew that. And I mean, those guys, you just said it right there. You hit the nail on the head. Is that they made up more than half of that offense and the productivity of that offense. But again, as was with Mason Rudolph, you have Baker Mayfield there, and you think, hey, you put it in Baker Mayfield's hands, he can do it because you're still using the same offensive system. The offensive system is not changing. The pieces in it are. But how many offensive systems have we seen? The pieces change. Guys come and go. But if you keep that quarterback right there, and he's having guys change, running backs and wide receivers around him, and he's that good, he is going to make them good. And I will throw Sean Anderson, if he's listening, I hope he is. Tom Brady could be throwing. Tom Brady could be thrown into a garbage can and a recycling bin, and they would have 1,000 yards on the season with 10 touchdowns each because that is how good Tom Brady is.
I'm glad you brought that up because one example I will use in that case is look at Wes Welker post-Patriot career. Was run out of town in Miami, I think he was on. That's how low he was. I don't even remember what team he was on before the Patriots. Comes over to New England. Boom, Wes Welker's a household name. A household name in the slot, and that's what Mayfield can bring to this team. And I love this quote that I got here from I'm looking Enid News, ENID News.com. That's what I'm looking at. And the quote they have here from Mayfield is, if people don't realize that we reload here, that's their own fault. I felt like our guys were getting disrespected a little bit. It's just about letting them know that I support them and I have all the confidence in the world with whoever is out there. I trust they are going to get the job done, end quote. And then when I go over to Athlon Sports, they have another quote here from Rudolph. It's up to me to make the most out of my senior year. This is my team, and that's the mindset I'm going to carry. One final run at the school that I love, end quote. That's the best thing. Like that. I mean, I know we say they lost Perine, they lost Westbrook.
Did you say that came from Rudolph?
No, that came from Baker Mayfield.
Okay, you had said Rudolph.
That's who I meant. That's who I meant. I'm thinking two Oklahoma teams in my head. It came from Mayfield. And even though they lose so many great pieces, they kept the most important one for this year. And out of these two quotes, that's a guy I want on my team. A guy that, I know at the quarterback position is going to be that leader and say, you know what? This is my team. I am going to do everything I can to carry it. But not just that, a guy who's going to make his team better. I don't care if you're Joe Schmo off the street. I am going to support you and make you feel like you are bringing something to this team, even when the media might not think so.
Well, I think that, again, it just goes to show you've got not just a good talent there, but you've got a true leader. True leader. You come out and you say something like that, that's big because that shows confidence in your offense, and guys will respond to that. Just like if you come out and you make it sound like you're questioning what's going on, you're questioning coaching, you're questioning teammates, they have just as negative a response to something like that as they will have a positive response to something like what Baker Mayfield said within the quotes that you had just mentioned. That's the big part, is that when you have your leader come out and say something like that. When you look at this offense and you kind of look away from those pieces, you look at the offensive line. This offensive line is going to be very, very good. These guys are going to allow a lot of time for Baker Mayfield to be able to get rid of the football, guys to be able to run their routes and stuff like that. That is going to be equally as important, especially when you're working with some guys who maybe you haven't worked with as much as some of the other guys in the past. You know, you worked with the D.D. Westbrooks, big time, and you worked with the Sterling Shepards before that, but you didn't necessarily work with some of the other guys. This offensive line should give you the time to be able to find them. And that's what's going to make Oklahoma, I think, very dangerous offensively. But, Ricky, there's another piece of this team that we need to talk about as well.
Go ahead.
And that is the defense. The defense that really struggled early on last year, and they got torched by teams like Texas Tech and TCU, but they started to figure it out a little bit. So the line will be fine. They'll be good enough.
They got to prove some stuff overall, though.
But they need to get better in the linebacking position. The linebacking core is where the question marks fall. And you look at cornerback and you look at safety, and that's also a position that should be solid. But the linebackers are where you are going, how's this going to go?
No, exactly. And I mean, I look at this team to where it's kind of everything that we've talked about with the Big 12 coming into this year is questionable defense, phenomenal offense. The good thing for them, though, the teams that we've talked about, and the main two that I think will challenge them in Oklahoma State and K-State, guess what? Both of those teams don't have a good of. They don't have a good defense. They don't have that phenomenal, and when I say good, they don't have that phenomenal, like, knock you out Alabama-style defense where it's like, great, we're not fucking scoring today. They also struggle on that side of the ball. So that's going to be good for Oklahoma. The only thing that kind of questions me, and I want you to read it off. You're going to do me a favor because my computer died. You're going to pull up Oklahoma's schedule for me if you have not already. Read me off their road games because that's what I was going to read off coming into this next point, because that to me is the one thing that this team's going to have to look at is the road games.
Yeah, don't worry, buddy. I got you.
Yeah, I pulled it up and I'm like, damn, it just died on me.
Your computer just died on you. Well, it keeps going to Oklahoma State. Okay, here we go. So their road games at Ohio State, at Baylor, at Kansas State, at Oklahoma State, at KU.
Except for KU, and like KU and Baylor are like I can see, but everything else, Oklahoma State, Kansas State, Ohio State, those three games alone on the road are tough. Tough games. Two of the big in-conference teams that we talked about to unseed them, and a team that we talked about in the Big Ten preview to where it's like, you know what? They're a team to where it's like they're going to be a college football contender as well.
No, I completely agree with you. What I think is going to be a really, really big game right away is going to be that game against Ohio State. Because,
win it and you're a college football favorite.
Because last year, we had Oklahoma coming in as this team that, okay, here we go, Oklahoma. They're really going to be making a name for themselves. So let's go. They're playing Ohio State. Going to be a big game. And it was a big flop.
Yeah.
45-24 was the final score, and Ohio State had the game from the word go. And then Oklahoma does everything else they need to do in the middle of the season. They come on real strong at the end of the season. And as I've mentioned a couple of times on this podcast, is the fact that I believe that Oklahoma could have been another college football playoff team if they would have won that game at the beginning of the season. If they would have started off stronger, they would have been a college football playoff team. And I still think
and then we would have never had the discussion between Ohio State and Penn State.
No, you wouldn't have. But I still think that even with how they ended, they still could have been.
Yeah.
I mean, even with still losing to Ohio State last year and ending up, 10-2?
Yeah.
They still could have been a college football playoff team. I won't say that they were snubbed, but I will say that they were on the fringe.
They went out there and they threw out a clunker. But those 3 games are going to be the most important to me. Even Baylor on the road, I got them winning that game, but that could be a trap. I'm going to air quote it, trap game.
You're a big fan of the trap game.
Like, that's one where it could be a trap game depending on what Baylor does. KU doesn't stand a chance against Oklahoma. That should be an easy win for this team. But, yeah, to me it comes down to this year. Like, last year Oklahoma had all the weapons. This year, can those weapons, what's the word I'm looking for? Can they step up and can
the new weapons, can they get as shiny as the other ones?
And can Baker Mayfield be the tool to help them step up, to be that guy to encourage them? Because the 2 quotes that I read, going back to them really quickly, kind of to put my final thoughts on this, this will be not only a very important season for Oklahoma, but for Baker Mayfield as well. Because of the quotes that I read, because of the kind of attributes that I was seeing from those, I'll be honest, I wouldn't be surprised if at the end of the year we are talking NFL draft-wise and we're going Sam Darnold 1, Allen number 2, and then Mayfield number 3. If he jumps a Josh Rosen, if he jumps Lamar Action Jackson's not in the top 5 for most people. If he is better than a Rudolph on draft boards and is a top 3 quality quarterback coming out because of the skills that he possesses as a leader, and as we get through that draft process, as teams start to interview kids coming out of college.
I think you've got it. It's going to be Baker Mayfield that is going to, his success and his leadership is going to be what boosts this team and pushes this team. And
he also
ahead.
has to have no more run-ins with the cops where he's like, I'm drunk, I can outrun him, and then gets tackled into brick walls. Can't have that anymore. I just want the other side to be out there too, because Baker Mayfield's not a perfect shining, like, has done nothing wrong. He's made his mistakes, but he's just got to correct
And neither
those.
Are you, and neither am I, and neither are all you guys.
I am not throwing stones.
Unfortunately, he is out in front of the public eye and needs to just be smarter.
Yeah.
Can you still have fun? Of course, but be smarter and be safer. That's all that he needs to do.
Hey, I'd rather have what he did than what Joe Mixon did.
Yes.
Yeah.
But, again, Baker Mayfield, he's going to be the reason that this team thrives or that this team takes maybe a step back. But I'm not saying they're taking a step back. I'm just saying that it's going to be down to him of how this team is going to end up being. And I see this team as being a very, very successful team and being very successful this year. And I don't think they're going to miss a beat with having Lincoln Riley as well. The Bob Stoops was a surprise for me, but I think Lincoln Riley has learned from Stoops, can take pointers, can do things differently as he should. And I think we've got a very successful team here in Oklahoma, with Oklahoma and Oklahoma State, not putting them in any specific order, but they will be 1 and 2, however they end up falling.
Well, and this is where you guys come in. Let us know down below. What do you think about the Sooners heading in? What do you think about this race for the top of the Big 12? Who do you think is going to be in it? Does Oklahoma get dethroned? Does someone else come up and take it from them? Let us know what you guys think down below in the comment section. I want to thank you guys for listening. This has been another edition of the Primetime Podcast here on Most Valuable Podcast. You can find us anywhere. Find us on YouTube if you're watching us. You can find all of our podcasts on either blogtalkradio.com/the primetime or Primetime Podcast, or on iTunes or Stitcher as well. You can find us on Android. You can find us on Apple. We're all over the place for you guys. But I want to thank you guys for watching and listening. And as always, have a good day, everybody.